Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Inside Elite Fitness. I'm Sean Woodland alongside my tag team partner, the Scott Hall to my Kevin Nash, Tommy Marquez. 19.4 is in the books, and last week we said that Dave Castro told us that this is the one workout that he could see athletes redoing at the CrossFit Games. For people who might not be able to figure out why do you think that is?
Well, as weird as it sounds, Sean, I think the reason for me really comes down to the 3-minute rest period and what those games level athletes and the higher level athletes are able to accomplish with that. Because of their ability to recover and their threshold for their capacity, they can push the first couplet a little bit faster, and as a result be able to utilize that rest and translate it into a higher level performance with a high skill movement like the bar muscle-ups, which was a huge dividing line for the rest of us who just couldn't simply recover and still perform at that level.
Right. Let's look at some of the top scores for the men in 19.4. As the leaderboard is still shaking out, there are some scores up there as of the recording of this episode that are not going to stay. But it's Jonakoski, looks like he's going to pick up his first win of the Open this year. 5 seconds ahead of Matt Fraser. Noah Olson, another great performance for him. We'll have more on that in a second. And then Dakota Rager and Cedric Lapointe look to be your top times right now. But with that result, Jonakoski looks like he's coming back to the games because he has all but locked up the Fittest in Finland title.
Yeah, and he's an athlete that probably should be at the games, right? He has a history of being a top performer, finishing inside the top 10 at the games twice. Last year, unfortunately, had to sit out due to injury. And what better way to kind of signal that you're back on top of your game than a worldwide open workout win and edging out none other than the fittest man on earth, Matt Fraser, to put yourself in the contention for a national champion. We've
talked a lot about Noah Olson these past couple of weeks because he dug himself quite the hole in week number 1. Another solid performance. I mean, this is exactly what he needs to be doing at this point, but still he's not where he needs to be as far as that cut line is concerned.
It's really unfortunate because Noah has just been on fire these last few weeks, but it still looks like points-wise and what the projected cut line might look like, he's going to be on the outside looking in after week 5 simply because that week 1 workout was just too low of a finish, especially if you're talking about trying to be one of the best in the world on the Open. You can't have a finish that low. Still, as we see the programming progress, Noah has gotten better, so it really still points to him being one of the best once it comes to games level style programming, and you just hope he finds his way to the game so he can prove that again.
Here's where the overall leaderboard stands right now, and again, this is unofficial, but it looks like Matt Fraser is going to win the Open again. Behind him, though, is a guy that we have seen from, I think, week 2, he's really been on the radar here. We haven't talked a whole lot about him. That's the man from Greece, Lefteris Theophanitis. It's time for another edition of Who the Hell is This Guy?
Well, Sean, he's a multi-year regional competitor. The only issue is that he's not really been a high-level regional athlete. His best finish at regionals as an individual is 23rd, but he has been the 3-time fittest man in Greece in the past. So even with this system in the past, it would point towards him being at the games multiple times, so it's no surprise to see him leading the pack for Greece, although it is a bit of a surprise to see him this high on the worldwide leaderboard. So now we'll have to see what that translates to in terms of a games performance now that it looks like he's going to be going.
We might not know what to expect from him at the CrossFit Games, but we know what to expect from Cole Sager. He is really doing himself a favor in the top 10 right now, and we talked about him before the Open even started because of what happened in Fitness in Cape Town. Didn't win that event and didn't look like Sean Sweeney was going to get one of the other open berths. So Cole Sager had his work cut out for him, and right now on pace for his best finish ever in the Open.
And after Cape Town, that's exactly what we said he was going to need if he was going to the CrossFit Games without having to go to another sanctioner, because he simply wasn't one of the best Open athletes, at least in past years. This year, with an increase in the level of programming and being a stage that could directly qualify athletes to the CrossFit Games, we've seen him thrive. And that's what Cole Sager typically does on the biggest stage, or a bigger stage at least, when the chips are down and there are bigger stakes up for grabs. He performs very well, and it's good to see him doing that this year.
Let's move over to the women's side of things, and same story with the top scores for 19.4 here. These are still sorting out as some of these scores that were entered incorrectly are being cleared off the leaderboard, but it looks like Anna Fragkow will have the top time at 8 minutes 32 seconds, edging out Carrie Pierce, who has another strong week at 8 minutes 34 seconds. And then Christy Aramo at 8:57. This was huge for her right now.
Yeah, and coming into this week, she was outside of the top 50, and they used a stat last week in one of our shows. In the history of the Open, only 6 times has an athlete outside of the top 50 after week 3 managed to get themselves back up into the top 30 by the end of the Open, because that's kind of what the projected cut line is. Performance like this certainly sets up Aramo to be one of those athletes and kind of bump that stat number up to 7th, because right now she's only 6 spots below that qualifying line in 38th overall, and it looks like with another strong performance, she's well within reach of getting into one of those top 20 spots.
The women's overall leaderboard right now, you have some names in the top 10 you would expect to see. In fact, 9 of the top 10 are former Games athletes. The only one who isn't is Danny Spiegel, and she is continuing to have a great open. Sarah Sigmundsdottir is running away with this thing. Looks like she's going to win the whole thing. But the name you don't see in the top 10 is still going to the Games because she looks like she's going to be the fittest in Hungary, and that's Laura Horvath. What do you make of that?
It's really been kind of a tale of two halves for Laura as far as this Open competition goes. Through 2 weeks of the Open, it looks like she was at her best. 2 top 20 performances worldwide in the Open, and it really looks like she's kind of stepping up after learning her lesson in Dubai. Then the last 2 weeks, she's kind of had, not necessarily regression, but her performances haven't been at that same level. She has a poor performance compared to her past performance in 19.3, and then another finish outside of the top 150 in 19.4 as we've kind of ramped up the skill level here. So it still points to there being some minor holes that she's going to need to fix if she wants to continue to compete at that top level. And not just the top level. We're talking about winning the fittest on earth crown. And that's still something that she has to work on as the development of a young athlete.
Yeah, 1 week ago in the 2019 Reebok CrossFit Games Open, we will have all the recaps and everything you need to know to get set for the rest of the sanctioned events and then on to the CrossFit Games. But be sure to go to our YouTube channel, Inside Elite Fitness. If you haven't already, please subscribe. You can also follow us on Instagram and on Facebook. And you can subscribe to our podcast. That's Talking Elite Fitness. That is on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And we'll have more this week with our preview of 19.5 coming up on Thursday. For Tommy Marquez, I'm Sean Woodland. We'll see you guys Thursday.